So, you think you have what it takes to be a priest? To support your party in the greatest dangers imaginable, and to annoy the enemy team into madness. Or just sit in high watch giving people buffs. Well, let's get to it then. There's a lot to learn. Welcome to my priest guide. In this guide, I hope to give you advice on gearing up your priest, as well as giving general advice on playing as one. As a priest, you'll be the group's healer. You're the most important part of the party, as you provide them with many buffs and support your skill arsenal has. Every class starts with getting their skills while leveling up, and priests sure have many of them. So, without further ado, before we start, open your skill menu by pressing K, clicking on Change Skills, and removing every single chain you have. In TERA, and especially as a priest, it is very important for all your skills to have a separate keybind. Done? Good. Let's get to it. This video will be separated into 3 sections: skills and glyphs, gear and rolls, and gameplay tips and consumables. You can find timestamps on the annotations on the screen and in the description of the video if you wish to skip ahead. Your first skill on the list, Heal Thyself, is the skill that will keep you alive, usually healing a quarter to a third of your health each use, depending on your equipment and the rolls on them. The restorative glyph is very useful if you find yourself taking damage often, giving the skill's healing a 20% boost. The main healing skill in your arsenal. If everything else is on cooldown, use Focus Heal to fill up even that missing 100 health from a party member. It can make the difference between them dying or staying alive. The multiplicative glyph is a must for 5-man parties, allowing you to heal everyone at once. The Longshot glyph is very useful too, letting you heal players from up to 22 meters away. The Soothing glyph may seem useful at first glance, but if the tank has any idea what they are doing, you should never pull any aggro. Restorative Burst creates a circle 10 meters in front of you with an 8 meter diameter, healing everyone who touches it for a decent amount every second for 5 seconds. You should keep this circle on the ground as often as possible, aiming it at bosses' backs in dungeons and at choke points in battlegrounds. The Spirited Glyph is a must, especially for dungeon plays, to keep your group's mana supplies up by restoring 50 mana per second along with the health. The Lingering Glyph is also worth using, making the healing effect last for 6 seconds instead of 5. Keep in mind that using this skill will also trigger Healing Circle's cooldown. Your highest burst heal, Healing Circle, goes hand in hand with Restorative Burst, usually almost healing players from 0 to 100 with 1 critical heal. The Restorative Glyph may not be worth using for its expensive 5-point cost, since the skill heals for more than enough, and you will need those glyph points elsewhere. Using this skill will put Restorative Burst on a 5-second cooldown, so you need to choose wisely which one to use. When you have nothing else to do, and you will be safe for a couple of seconds, use Regeneration Circle. This skill has relatively low heals, but works well as a filler skill, and as such, is not worth glyphing up. Your second highest burst heal, Healing Immersion, is like a ranged healing circle, healing a massive burst to the target and all party members, including yourself, within 7 meters of them. The Persistent Glyph is a must-have on this skill, giving it a 40% chance to reset its cooldown, potentially making a difference between your whole party living or dying. The Restorative Glyph is more useful for PvP than PvE. Divine Respite doesn't seem worth considering using from its description, but this skill is essentially a God mode button for you, at least for 10 seconds. Press this button to heal yourself from 0 to 100 in an instant, and making you pretty much unable to die to anything except for one-shot mechanics in dungeon bosses. Using this skill after Kaya's Shield in a hectic PvP situation will make your enemies rip their hair out of their heads. Nothing is more annoying than a healer with the God mode. It's also worth glyphing up for PvP. Essential for dungeon runs, Grace of Resurrection puts a one-use blessing on you, allowing you to resurrect on the spot with 100% health, mana and full stamina. The blessing lasts for 20 minutes and has a very long 15-minute cooldown, so using the energetic glyph to reduce it to 9 minutes instead is well worth the 2-point cost. You have many buffs that need active use, but 5 of them require only 1 use before going into battle. These buffs being Blessing of Shaken, increasing power by 25, Blessing of Seren, increasing endurance by 11, Blessing of Boulder, giving HP recovery, Blessing of Arachne, increasing all resistance, and Blessing of Zenobia, increasing movement speed out of combat. Only the last one is worth using any glyphs for. The fleet-footed glyph is very useful for you, increasing your in-combat movement speed by 15. You should aim to keep these buffs up on all party members at all times, since they greatly increase your group's DPS and survivability. One of your most important skills, Energy Stars, gives your allies additional 40 power and 8 attack speed for 20 seconds, significantly increasing the group's damage output. You should glyph this skill up, increasing the buffs to 48 power and 10 attack speed, and the duration to 25 seconds. You should aim to keep this up 100% of the time. More damage is always a plus. If you get staggered or knocked down between you casting the skill and it hitting the target, the skill will go on cooldown and will not give the buff. Your panic button, Kaya's shield, will absorb just under 40,000 damage for you and up to 4 allies for 12 seconds. The shield will end if the damage or the time limit is reached. You will also be immune to stagger and knockdown when the shield is up. The energetic glyph is a must-have, decreasing the cooldown by 20% and 25% with the master glyph. You may use the other two depending on your needs, both being useful in certain critical situations. If you see any of your allies has a purple health bar, you should use Purifying Circle to remove it. It removes all debuffs from all allies and you within a large circle around you. During the cast, you're immune to stagger and knockdown, so timing the skill correctly can sometimes save your life in PvP situations. If your party has mana problems, mana charts will keep their mana pools filled up. The longer you press the button, the more mana will be restored. Using Hastened and Spirited Glyphs will make the charging much faster and will restore up to 30% of your mana on full charge. You may also use the Longshot Glyph if you think you're going to need the extra range or have a few extra glyph points to spare. If someone from your party dies, it is your job to resurrect them back to life. This skill makes you immobile for a long time, so only resurrect someone when you know you will be safe for a good few seconds. It's important to keep in mind that this skill will eat your mana very fast if used many times in a short period of time. When casting, you may pull aggro from the boss and or the mobs around you, so be cautious. All the glyphs are useful for this skill, but the mandatory one is the Hearty Glyph, which makes your allies resurrect with full stamina. There's nothing more annoying than dying and getting resurrected with no stamina. After resurrecting a player, remember to give them back at least the power and endurance buffs. A very situational PvP-oriented skill, Guardian Sanctuary will reduce all ranged damage received by 30%, increasing resistance to weakening and damage over time effects by 100% and significantly increasing stun resistance for 10 seconds. The energetic glyph may be worth considering for mass PvP battlegrounds like Corsair's Stronghold or Gridiron. Otherwise, there are not many situations for this skill to shine. Another PvP-oriented skill, Arise, will make all of your knocked down allies stand up and double theirs and everyone else's balance factor within 20 meters for 5 seconds, including you. Plague of Exhaustion can be used as support or offensive skill. The Plague removes all buffs from enemy players except for charms and some consumables, and is needed for some bosses in endgame instances, while doing minimal damage per 3 seconds for 15 seconds to mobs, and even less damage to other players. The Plague will also increase enemy players' cooldowns by 50% for some of their skills. You can target up to 4 targets at once. Players can dodge the Plague and not get affected by it. The energetic glyph is useful for PvP, but not for PvE, since the boss mechanics should have enough time between them for the skill to be back up. If your enemy is too aggressive, try singing Ishara's lullaby to them and put them to sleep for a brief time. This skill can be used as a support or offensive skill, just like Plague of Exhaustion, with some boss mechanics needing it and stunning enemy players. Beware that other players can dodge this skill to not get stunned. Your first skill on the offensive list doesn't impress. Divine Radiance is worth considering using only when soloing. Its long animation lock and very low damage make it not ideal to use in endgame instances or in PvP. Try to not use this skill or the one glyph it has, since there are more potent offensive skills priests have. Your second skill hits harder and is more useful than that small ball of yours. Metamorphic Blast hits targets up to 55 degrees in front of you, hitting enemies within 4 to 6 meters once and in 3 meters twice, second hit dealing greater damage. The Numbing Glyph may be worth considering for PvP, having a 20% chance of making your enemy's attacks 15% slower for 7 seconds. This skill changes into Final Reprisal. The only damage dealing skill actually useful for group play. Triple Nemesis hits your opponent 1, 2 or 3 times, depending on how long you hold down the button. Each hit deals more damage than the last one. What makes this skill mandatory is its enfeebling glyph that gives enemies a debuff each time the skill hits a target, decreasing their defense by 10% for 12 seconds. The effect does not stack, however, so it's wiser to tap the skill once on a boss every time the skill is off cooldown, and move on to do other things, since you're in animation lock for a while during all 3 casts. The power-linked glyph is also worth considering while soloing. This skill changes into Final Reprisal. The hardest hitting skill in your arsenal, Shocking Implosion, creates a ball of electricity in front of you, hitting all enemies within 5 meters multiple times. Use the power-linked glyph while soloing, otherwise don't use this skill at all. This skill changes into Final Reprisal. You will never use Final Reprisal on its own. It has a long cast time and you're in animation lock the whole time. However, you cast this skill much faster within a very short time after Metamorphic Blast, third Triple Nemesis or Shocking Implosion, dealing moderate damage with a high chance of knocking down enemy players. It's worth using the Persistent Glyph when soloing for 30% chance to reset its cooldown and 50% chance with the Master Glyph, increasing your damage output significantly. Your last offensive skill, Zenobia's Vortex, is the second hardest hitting skill and lifts all targets up in the air, staggering them. This skill has some uses in PvP, but is only worth glyphing up if soloing. Depending on your camera settings, you may need to aim above your opponent for the Vortex to reach them, since it can go down in the ground instead of hitting them. Your one and only invincibility frame. Backstep is a skill you should use only when you absolutely have to, since it being on cooldown can end up being your demise. You can also use this skill to move around the battlefield more rapidly, but only if you're not in an immediate danger for the next few seconds. Your second maneuvering skill, Fiery Escape, also has its uses, mostly in PvP, decreasing your enemy's movement speed by 50% for a few seconds. Remember that this skill is not an invincibility frame like Backstep. If you're knocked down, you can use Retaliate to quickly get up to your feet and be immune to stagger, stuns and knockdowns for a couple of seconds. Use the Energetic Glyph for PvP scenarios, otherwise use your points on something more useful. A fun and occasionally useful skill, Divine Intervention allows you to pull one party member right in front of you from up to 24 meters away. Keep in mind that while it may seem like it, they are not immune to damage while pulling, so pull them with some time left before the attack you're saving them from, if you can. A very situational skill, mostly used while hunting multiple world bosses in a raid or during alliance conflicts. Summon Party does exactly as its name states. It will summon all of your party members to your location as long as they are within the same region as you. Everyone affected have the option to accept or decline the summon. Similar to Summon Party, Homeward Bound is a very situational skill, teleporting you and your party members to the nearest campfire to you, as long as they are within the same region as you. Everyone affected have the option to accept or decline the summon. Prayer of Peace will drop all aggro from all of your enemies. Use this skill if you absolutely have to, since if any of the other players are pressing any buttons, you should never pull the aggro. Keep in mind that if you're the only one alive, using this skill will reset the boss. Using any glyphs isn't worth for a skill you should never have to use. Speaking of a useless skill, Mana Infusion is only useful at very low levels, since it's your only way to gain mana quickly, until you get Mana Charge, which is way more useful since it restores mana to other players too. Don't bother glyphing this skill up either. Exclusive to PvP servers and available for all classes, Outlaw Declaration will make anyone able to attack you in the overworld and allow you to attack anyone. Keep in mind that if anyone has this skill turned on, they can still attack you even if you don't have the skill enabled. In general, you want to get all the healing, defense and attack speed you can muster, crit factor being only a bonus. For your weapon rolls, you want increased healing, attack speed and 2 cooldown reduction rolls if possible. Other useful rolls are mana restored upon using a skill and crit factor if you have an extra line to roll. Gloves are pretty straightforward. You'll generally want increased healing, attack speed and endurance. Boots are simple too. The important rolls are endurance and movement speed, and the third can be either mana over time or reduced time of slowing effects. Generally speaking, you should never have any mana issues, so your choice is pretty free here. Armor is a bit more of a personal preference. Reduced cooldown for Kaya's shield seems to be the most wanted role for the top line, but you might find other roles to suit your needs better. For other roles, you'll want anything that reduces damage. For Belt and Brooch, you can either go for double HP or crit factor and HP, the latter being more balanced in my opinion. The only useful brooch for priests is the Cleansing Brooch, acting like a personal purifying circle but can be used instantly and even when stunned. Inner armor is a choice between more HP or more endurance, depending on your other stats. If you already have lots of endurance, maybe go for the HP one, and if you're lacking some, go with the endurance one. It is wise to use the complete set of the latest heal jewelry set, with endurance and HP rolls on earrings for PvE or reduced stun duration and HP for PvP, while going for endurance and crit factor on rings and the necklace. Your crystals for weapon, armor and jewelry are pretty straightforward. 1 swift, 1 carving and 2 brilliant fine nivets for the weapon. You'll want all the extra movement speed in combat you can have, and extra crit heals are always welcome. For armor, either 4 hardy nivets for PvE and 4 relentless nivets or 3 relentless and 1 resolute nivet for PvP. For jewelry, either succoring or grounding virsks for PvE and indomitable sirks for PvP. Etchings are an important part of gear, especially if you're planning on staying with your current gear for longer. As stated before, all attack speed and defense is always welcome, so it's recommended to go energetic etchings for weapons and gloves, and grounding for PvE or unyielding for PvP for armor and boots for extra survivability. As stated before, you're the most important part of the party, so it's essential for you to position yourself at a safe distance from the heat of the battle, while still being able to heal everyone as needed. In general, you want to try and stay at the side of bosses, since their attacks are mostly aimed in front of them and to the back. For PvP battlegrounds, you should stay at the back of masses of tanks and DPS classes, supporting them as needed. Your healing priority should be yourself, then the tank, and then everyone else. If you die, there are no heals for anyone, and if the tank dies, everyone's job becomes much harder as the aggro starts jumping around from player to player. A DPS player dying is not such a big deal in most instances compared to the healer or tank dying. Last but not least are consumables. You should always carry enduring and infusing charms of the greater quality. Keen charms are a nice bonus to have. You should never have mana problems, but if you run into them, divine infusions are pretty much the only way to go, given your huge mana pool which cannot be filled efficiently with regular mana potions. Noctenium infusions are mostly a luxury item and are not necessary by any means. They mostly increase your healing by a marginal amount, which isn't really worth it considering your heals should be plenty strong already. They are very useful for PvP though, giving your defense a big boost. Bravery potions are a luxury item too, being more useful in harder instances and are not needed in most situations. Runic, combat and battle panaceas will keep your stamina filled up even during combat. Warding scrolls can work as a mini Kaya shield in critical situations. Attack speed onslaught scrolls are very nice to have, but keep in mind that attack speed also affects backstep, making it even more difficult to time correctly. Battle nostrums may seem useful, but sadly they do not affect the cooldowns of your healing skills, making them somewhat useless for healing tasks. They are more useful when soloing. So, now you should be ready for your healing duties as a priest. I hope this guide has given you advice and possibly made you a better priest along the way. If you have any questions or anything to say, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll answer them as soon as possible. Thank you very much for watching and for the Federation.